Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'll be playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going to be facing off against the Vampire Counts. So definitely a fun matchup, and I do have a Chaos Giant. It's always a sign of good times to come, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this one. So as far as my front line goes, I have Aspiring Champions. I decided to put them in front. I don't normally do that because if I have like Chaos Marauders or, even low tier Chaos Warriors, I like to have them behind to make sure that they're able to provide that perpetual encouragement and that they don't get, devastated by some heavy shock damage initially. But in this particular matchup, considering most of my army comprises of elite troops, you can see I have two groups of Chosen with great weapons here as well as of Giant. And of course, I do have some Chaos Warriors in the flanks over here and over there with Halberds, just to kind of deal with Blood Knights and other things like that. But for the most part, I feel like it wasn't as big of an issue putting them in the front line. Also, comparatively speaking, they have 64 melee defense to the 44 of these Chosen, so I figured they would be a good choice for handling that initial Graveguard beatdown. So I have these guys in the front line. They do magic damage as well, so very, very good against various ethereal units that the Vampire Counts can bring, so definitely cannot complain. For my secondary line, Graveguard are obviously an extremely popular pick. You're going to see the Sternsmen, you're going to see Graveguards with great weapons, those type of things. And these guys are so darn good against Graveguard, and they will cut them to pieces. So I have two groups of these guys, and then also a Chaos Giant. So the Chaos Giant, another heavy-duty anti-armor piercing, well, not anti-armor piercing, but armor piercing unit that is going to be really, really good as long as I can protect it. So kind of with this type of strategy where I have all these elite units, in order to protect this Giant against Blood Knights who have anti-large and would absolutely cut this guy to pieces, I decided to get three groups of Chaos Warriors with Halberds. So you can see I have one group here, and one group here. And I really like these guys in the Vampire Counts matchup simply because they have anti-large, armor piercing. They hold up really well against Graveguard. And also you're getting that anti-large bonus in the charged defense against large foes. I feel like it's a little bit of a better choice than the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. But again, I also have that traditional armor piercing covered with these Chosen here. So I didn't feel too stressed about that. What's also nice about this is, in most meta games, I would say, people usually bring Cav of some sort, whether, it be Chaos Knights. Well, with Chaos, I'd say Cav is a little less common. People often bring Mancores and things like that. But in not bringing those type of mobile units, your opponents will often have like Blood Knights and things like that to deal with those threats. And when you don't have them, it makes those units slightly less effective. So definitely a bit of an off-meta advantage here. And then I also have Kolek over here in the woods, the Lord of the Storm, and he is ready to party. So Kolek, you can get away with him in this build. He usually struggles against Empire and different factions like that, where you're going to be taking a lot of fire. But against the Vampire Counts, you can usually run among your own troops, and you're going to be pretty safe. So my opponent here has some Blood Knights. It looks like in his front line he has some zombies mixed in with Skeleton Warriors for fodder, which isn't a terrible choice. They'll do the job. I mean, they'll take that initial beating of the Chosen pretty well, and hopefully allow these units to get a little bit of a better saturation. So he's got Graveguards, the Sternsmen here, and regardless of whether you're going against an armored faction, the Sternsmen are always a pretty good choice. But other than that, it looks like he has Graveguards with great weapons, which is pretty smart against the Warriors of Chaos. He also has the Claw of Nagash here. He has a White King. He has Vlad von Karstein. And I think that's it. So yeah, Blood Knights are obviously expensive, and so is the Claw of Nagash. So he's really going to need to protect this for a large sustainable part of the battle to really get value out of it, because the rest of his forces are relatively squishy here in the front line. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So there's a lot of slow marching in this particular battle. We're both kind of wading through the swamp, and if I'm not mistaken, you actually take a combat penalty from fighting in shallow water from small arms infantry. So that'll affect my infantry as well as his. So I decided to actually just kind of wait over here and hopefully engage him on this lip here, where I wouldn't be taking many casualties. So I do run up with Kolek here. I'm going to get a little bit of a Lord of the Storm. I think I actually used it on the Sternsmen. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and watch this right here. So they're at 90 models right now, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what it does. So they go from 90 to 81, and they take about, 10 to 15% of their HP and damage. So that's definitely becoming one of my new favorite abilities. Like if you use it against the Peak Gate Guard or Chosen or other elite infantry, it does a ton of damage for, again, being a spell that you can use multiple times over the course of the battle. No wins magic. Pretty great in my opinion. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit as they trudge through the swamp. So hopefully it won't take too long, but it looks like my opponent is advancing with his Blood Knights, and I move up just a little bit because what I wanted to do was kind of have some of his troops fighting in the shallow water and make it a little, troublesome for him, but we'll see how it goes at the end of the day. So Kolek's kind of just riding around trying to find his home, trying to see where there was weaknesses, and I wanted to see what mainly he was going to do with these Blood Knights, but I did have these Chaos Warriors with Halberds over here to kind of soak up this flank, and even if he does circumvent these guys and get around, I have another group in auxiliary I was keeping waiting for those guys. So in the front here, these Aspiring Champs are going to get in there, and they're going to be pretty darn good at beating down this fodder. And they're so heavily armored and have such high melee defense, these skeletons honestly won't be able to do anything to them. So, well, at least that's the hope. So Kolek comes in here and gets another Lord of the Storm, and again, it's going to do pretty substantial damage, putting those Sternsmen down to 69 models, so definitely a good situation. And the Giant is in here as well. So most of my melee core has been engaged right now. You can see the Chosen are kind of supporting these Aspiring Champions here. That is a really scary melee line, and you can see most of his fodder is crumbling right now, so I'm pretty happy about that. I also do ride Kolek through as well as my Giant, and they're doing a pretty good job. This Giant is laying a smack down on this White King. And Kolek, of course, is going to see the White King, and anytime you can burn down these really like strong, sustainable heroic units that can carry potions and break their leadership before they can get those potions off, you're going to have a huge advantage. You can see Kolek and the Giant, they're doing a ton of damage to that guy, so very good situation. Now the Graveguard are getting in here, and you can see the Chosen. They haven't lost any models yet, and these Aspiring Champs in the front haven't lost any either. They've taken a little bit of HP damage, mainly probably from the Klob Nagash train, but for the most part, they're going to be very healthy going into this battle against the Sternsman. This is going to be a bad day for these guys, as these are some heavy-duty armor-piercing troops. You can see a lot of crumbling across the line, and even in the wing over here, you can see the Chaos Warriors. He actually has a pretty good situation here. So he has skeletons and zombies. So my Chaos Warriors here are hitting, the fodder units, while his Graveguards seem to be getting a decent attack on my guys. So pretty well played on my opponent's part here. Over at the same time, he did try and get around, but unfortunately the Halberdiers were able to intercept the Blood Knights. I had these guys over here, so he couldn't really come through here, and he had to go the wide route, and unfortunately he did get tied down, which is really bad, and you can see the Blood Knights are just getting decimated by those Chaos Warriors. So in the main line, Kolek and the Giant are just laying the smackdown, and one of the issues about fighting against these type of units, and you don't see them a lot with Chaos, so he probably wasn't expecting it, but honestly this Giant can march through any formation and get to these high value targets. And Kolek's kind of the same way. He's so fast, you can kind of just scurry him around. But my opponent using Vlad, he actually did use Master of Bagamut, so very well played. It was able to shut down Kolek for a moment, and I'm simply just running him around, and I'm getting a nice little rear charge here. I feel like Kolek's charge is bugged. Like sometimes he just like stops and then takes a swing. I don't know if that's like his standard attack animation, but it seems a little funny. But even with that Master of Bagamut, he's doing a nice little smackdown on these guys and has led them to a weak binding. So the Giant over here was able to kill the White King, which is a very, very good situation for me. It's going to be pretty darn hard for heroic units to survive against a Kolek with the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, 690 weapon strength. That's pretty crazy. So that Klob Nagash there just went from like 30% to nothing, and it's just one swing. And unfortunately for Vlad here, he's going to get the Kolek beat down now. And one thing is Kolek's one of those guys that will always just constantly knock over heroic units, and you can see he actually just took out some of his Chosen there. So again, the Chosen, when supported by the Aspiring Champs, I'm telling you, they haven't lost a model yet. They're still at 60 models after this whole battle. So very, very good there. And the Aspiring Champions mixed in with them was really nice, because you had that kind of buffed melee defense in the front line, and they were doing pretty darn good. You can see these Graveguard are having a really bad time. So over here on the far flank, it looks like the Chaos Warriors with Halberds were able to clean up those Blood Knights, and again, against the particular way I built my army, Blood Knights weren't going to be able to find a great home. So, sometimes those off-meta builds can be really, really effective because people are so used to seeing, traditional builds. For example, with the Vampire Counts, most people will assume you're going to bring Blood Knights because they're very, very good against a multitude of different units. So if you bring a Vampire Counts army with, let's say, Skeleton Spearmen in your flanks and all infantry, a lot of times people are going to have like Demogryph Knights and these awkward units that aren't going to be that effective anymore. So, sometimes picking off meta can work out, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that battle, and the Chaos Giant there standing all triumphantly. So let's go ahead and look at the breakdown. So these Chosen, obviously they were padded by zombies and skeletons, but that's a lot of kills across the board. And even the Aspiring Champs did pretty good. They did their job. They took the beating, but I still had that one very healthy group that was able to continue to encourage. But Chosen, and when you go with this type of build, you don't really have to worry about leadership too much because most of these units have very, very high leadership. And Kolek obviously did a good job, and I actually like him in the Vampire Counts matchup. You guys can see how truly strong the Lord of the Storm is. I mean, it brought the Sternsman down to about half fighting capacity by the time the battle started. So very, very cool ability there. For my opponent's army, definitely, it's a tough, matchup facing off against Chosen for sure. But these Graveguard with the shields, I probably would have opted to get some more armor-piercing units. That might have been a decent choice. The zombies aren't bad. It takes Chosen and, elite infantry a while to cut through them. But thankfully, the Aspiring Champs did have splash damage. So definitely very, very strong there. And, the Blood Knights, obviously, I would normally bring Blood Knights as a Vamp Counts player. But, you can't blame them for that. But, also another thing that's tough about the Halberdier build is Cryptors are going to have a tough time as well. Because Chaos Warriors with Halberds will get through them pretty quick. But, again, there's a multitude of different strategies that could have worked. But, again, hindsight is 2020. So really well played to my opponent, Swan. I look forward to seeing you again on Ladder. And I hope you guys enjoyed that Chaos Cast. Have an excellent night and take care.